Hi, Stuart Bruce here, and I am the Spare Time Property Investor. In these podcasts, I'm going to share tips, tricks and lessons that I've learned and will hopefully help you, especially if you're still working the 9 to 5. Hi, Stuart Bruce here from the Spare Time Property Investor podcast. We've just been on holiday. It was lovely and we're feeling all nicely refreshed after getting back. So yeah, here we go. I thought I would do an episode about how we got going in property. I know a lot of people really struggle to get that first deposit for a buy-to-let or an HMO. So I thought I would share what we did and hopefully it will help you. So for starters, it's really, really difficult to get on the property ladder. So making the jump from being on the property ladder to investing in property is a real challenge. So we didn't have a lot of money, but we managed to scrape enough money together to get our first property. It was after the 2008 crash, so property prices had crashed, and so that meant we were able to buy something. There's no way we could have bought something even a year before because of how things were. So we found a few properties that were kind of in our budget. And we managed to find one that was really rough but could be really nice. So in the end, we got that one. And I vividly remember driving around and somebody ringing me to say that our mortgage application had been thrown out because they caught on that we'd actually borrowed a little bit of extra money from a family member. Then we were going to pay them back. So we didn't really have enough money for this mortgage, but we managed to wangle it. So this meant that actually the first house that we got, we could only just about pay the mortgage and the bills. So it was in rough condition. So we did absolutely everything ourselves, and I mean everything ourselves. My DIY skills went from zero to like pretty good in the years that it took us to do that house up, and we did learn a lot. But after a few years of being there, we realised how much it had increased in value. And a lot of that was the work we'd done. Obviously the market helped a little bit, but we did a lot of work to that first house. And also we negotiated quite well. Looking back in hindsight, we negotiated quite well on that first property. And anyway, we realised that this property had made some money. So then we sold it and moved on to the next one with the intention to do the same again. But knowing that we'd earned this money or made this money from doing that first house, it really sparked my interest. So I started educating myself about property. So by the time we'd done the second property, which was a much, much bigger project for us, a lot more involved, a lot more was wrong with the second house, which is our current home, to be honest. We had to do a lot of work to that house. Including the roof had to be redone. There were some real structural problems we dealt with. We argued the toss with the mortgage company because they were saying it was subsidence. It's not subsidence. So we really, really went into the nitty gritty with all of that, and we managed to pull it off and did a lot of work to the second house, which has again been very, very successful in terms of how much value we've been able to add. So the first house, we added the value and then we sold it to release the money. The second house, while all this was happening, I was educating myself, and what we did was we added the value, but instead of selling it to release the capital, we refinanced it. You might have heard of something called the BRRRR strategy, which is buy, refurbish, rent, refinance, repeat. Some people also call this recycling deposits or recycling capital, but it's the same thing. So it's a similar sort of thing really, but it was just in the house that we owned. So what it meant was we'd done all of the work, we'd added the value, which meant the capital within that house had increased, and we were able to refinance some money out of that property by refinancing to a higher loan and taking some of that money out of the property, then invest that money into our first investment property, and it worked a treat. We still had plenty of capital left in the house. We still had the 25% deposit and then some, and we were able to pull out a decent chunk to go and invest in the first property. So that first property we did as a joint venture, partly because we were scared about doing the first property. The joint venture partner didn't know about property investment either, but it was good to have somebody else there. Did loads of work to that house. Again, we were able to pull all of our money out of that first deal. It just showed us that there's this power of being able to buy a property that's run down, do work to it, add the value, and then it creates this additional value, which you can then take out of the property and use to invest in a different property, which just makes it such a powerful investment. When you compare it to shares and things like that, it's like buying some shares and then having the opportunity to go into that business and making that business way, way, way more profitable. You just can't do that. So this is why I love property, because you buy the business, the property, and you're able to make it way, way, way more profitable, add all the value to it, and then it can sit there ticking along making you money, and you can get your money back. So it's fantastic. So from that money that we were able to pull out of our home, we were able to get that first joint venture property, which we did up. We rent out, still rents out very well, and we were able to get all of our money out of that property. One caveat, we do pay more on the mortgage, obviously, so the profit we make, the cash flow we make from that property reduced, which is okay as far as I'm concerned. We never have months where we have to put any money towards it. Some months when there's voids, it doesn't make a lot of money, but it's an HMO, so it always covers itself. So even though the mortgage increased, it still more than covers itself. It's sitting there, it's increasing in value, and we got all of our money out. And we still had some money left over from the money we pulled out from our house. So me and my wife bought a property and converted it into an HMO. And I won't go into everything, but when you look at it in those terms, if you're lucky enough to have your own home, it is possible to do this. Now, you have to go and speak to a broker. You have to really understand what impact this has on your finances. I'm not a financial advisor, so you'd have to go and speak to these people to make sure that it works for you and it helps you move towards your goals. But this is what we did, and I know that a lot of other people do it. So it might be something that you could look into. Like I say, a good broker will be able to give you advice about this, and they'll be able to tell you about the risks of increasing the debt that you have on your own home, and then using that to invest in properties. We're very careful in terms of what we invest in. So we as much as possible, we're pretty certain that first property would be profitable. We were pretty certain the subsequent properties are profitable, so we never have to worry about them. And we've been lucky enough to be able to keep up with our mortgage payments. And this is what it boils down to. You have to be sure that your finances are secure when you're making these decisions. But if you can make it work, it's a really, really good way to get started in properties. The other great thing about using your own money that you've taken out of your property is you can get started in property using your money, putting your money on the line before you ever start speaking to family and friends about investing with you, so that you can start to build a bit of a track record. I mean, there are alternatives. Before we got into property, we had a couple of little businesses to make extra money on the side, and I'm sure if we'd have kept up with those and run them more professionally, we would have been able to make enough money for, say, a deposit for a second house or something like that. So there are other ways of doing it, but they kind of amount to saving. They amount to having side hustles, different businesses to increase your income, or just increasing your income by getting a better job, really reducing your outgoings so you can save. I just did a post about not living to your means, and I genuinely lived that, and we do live it still. I think if you're in this world of property investment or investment or business, you can't redline yourself every month, because what happens if something goes wrong? You need to have that money there as a little buffer, so you can pay a little extra on a boiler for a property, for instance. You need to be able to access that money. So you need to really be careful about how you do this. But I would strongly suggest you kind of at least consider this and look into it as a way to get your property investment kick-started. The other thing is you could do something like a rent-to-rent model to start off with. It's difficult to get started, but it is possible. I know people who do it. So you could always do a rent-to-rent or a few rent-to-rents if you're able to get them started, and just save that money. That could be the way into getting your first investment property. But we made some money on our first property and then refurbed our second property, which enabled us to pull money out and then start investing in property. And I know a lot of people who do this. So it's definitely worth thinking about. I really hope you found that helpful, and I really hope it maybe switched some people on to the money they've got sitting in their houses that you could be using to get started in property. And if you have, let me know. Hopefully that's helped you. Give me a direct message on Instagram. Let me know how you get on. If you've got any questions, direct message me. If I can't help you, I will put you in touch with other people. So hopefully that was helpful, and I wish you the best of luck if you do this. Be cautious, but obviously you need to make some moves to be able to get into a property investment. So that's me for this week. Best of luck, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have, please leave me a 5-star review to help other people find it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.